When you look at Earth from space, it's just this beautiful, silent marble. It gives you absolutely no hints about the incredible, chaotic, and diverse web of life that's just teeming on its surface. Let's zoom in from that silent marble and start to decode the fundamental principles of being alive. We're going to kick things off by defining the field itself. What is biology? Then we'll get a peek at science's secret recipe for making discoveries. After that, we'll run through the official checklist for what it actually means to be alive, see how life is built from the ground up, and then, ask the big question: what's the point of all this knowledge anyway? All right, first up, what is biology? The simple answer is it's the study of life. But don't let that fool you. The scope of biology is just breathtaking. We're talking about everything from the elegant machinery inside a single tiny bacterium to the intricate dance between predators and prey in a rainforest, all the way up to the collective breath of the entire living planet. It's huge. And this quote right here, this really gets to the heart of it. Biology is a science. And what separates science from just, guessing is a very powerful, systematic way of asking and answering questions. And that, of course, is the scientific method. Okay, so let's dig into that method. This is our toolkit for discovery. And honestly, this secret recipe isn't just for scientists in white lab coats. It's really a logical, rational way to solve problems that pretty much anyone can use in any part of their life. To get how it works, we don't need some complex lab setup. Let's just take a super simple, everyday problem. Imagine this. You walk into a classroom, and it is just uncomfortably warm. That's it. That's our starting point, a basic observation. And that observation immediately sparks a question. It's the most natural thing on the world, right? It's the little thing that ignites the whole process. Why? Why is it so warm in here? So now we form a hypothesis, and that's really just a fancy word for a testable guess, an educated explanation. You might think, maybe the air conditioning isn't on. Or, you know what, maybe there's a power outage. See? Both of those are potential answers that we can actually go and check. And that little example perfectly lays out the formal steps, which were first documented by Sir Francis Bacon. By the way, you start with an observation. You ask a question, you form that testable hypothesis, and then you make a prediction from it. Something like, if I check the light switch, then it won't work. Then you do the experiment, you flick the switch, and you get a result. Now, powering this whole process are two key ways of thinking. You've got inductive reasoning, which takes a bunch of specific observations and builds up to a general conclusion. Like you see a robin, a sparrow, and a pigeon, and they all have feathers, so you conclude, okay, all birds have feathers. Then there's deductive reasoning, which is the opposite. It starts with that general rule to predict a specific outcome. So if we accept that all birds have feathers, and a penguin is a bird, then we can deduce that a penguin has to have feathers. Make sense, right? All right, we have our scientific toolkit ready to go. So let's use it to tackle the biggest question of all. What are the shared properties that actually make something alive? What does every single living thing, from a tiny microbe to a giant blue whale, have in common? Let's run down the official checklist. First on the list is order. Living things are not just chaotic jumbles of stuff. They are highly organized. They have these amazing complex structures, all nested within each other, from atoms building molecules to cells building tissues, all the way up to a whole organism like you or me. Second, sensitivity, or response to stimuli. Life isn't passive. It reacts to the world around it. Think about a plant literally bending itself toward the sunlight it needs to survive. Or you, pulling your hand back from a hot stove without even thinking. It's this constant conversation with the environment. Third, and this is a huge one, reproduction. At its very core, life wants to make more life. Living things create copies of themselves, passing on their genetic blueprint, their DNA, to the next generation. It's how the story of life keeps going. Number 4 is adaptation. This is the beautiful result of evolution in action. Over many, many generations, organisms develop traits that give them an edge in their specific environment, like a polar bear having white fur to blend in with the snow. This fit makes them better at surviving and, crucially, at reproducing. Fifth, we've got growth and development. No organism just pops into existence fully formed, right? They all grow and change based on a very precise set of instructions encoded in their genes. They're following a pre-written developmental path, whether it's from a tiny seed into a giant tree or from an embryo into a full-grown adult. Number 6 is regulation, or what scientists call homeostasis. This is all about keeping the inside world stable, no matter what's happening outside. Think about how your body works around the clock to keep your temperature right around 98.6 degrees, whether it's freezing cold or blazing hot outside. That's homeostasis. Seventh on the list is energy processing. Look, being alive is hard work, and all work requires energy. Every living thing has a strategy to get it. A plant soaks up sunlight through photosynthesis. A rabbit gets its energy by, well, eating that plant. This constant flow of energy is what fuels all the chemical reactions that keep us going. And finally, number 8, the big one, the grand, unifying theme of all biology, evolution. This is the core idea that entire populations of organisms change over vast stretches of time. It's the powerful engine that has generated the absolutely breathtaking diversity of life we see all over our planet today. So, we have our official checklist for what it means to be alive. Now let's talk about how all of this is organized. Because life is structured in this incredible hierarchy, scaling from the impossibly small all the way up to the entire planet. It all starts at the very bottom with atoms, right? The basic units of matter. They bond together to form molecules, like the amazing DNA molecule. Those molecules build up the parts of a cell, and eventually the cell itself, which is the smallest fundamental unit of life. From there, cells form tissues, tissues form organs, organs work together in an organism. But we don't stop there. Organisms form populations, which live together in communities, which interact with their environment in an ecosystem. And finally, you take all of the ecosystems on Earth together, and you get the biosphere, the sum total of all life. And that brings us to our final and maybe most important section. We've uncovered this incredible, intricate knowledge about what life is and how it works. So now we have to ask, what do we do with all this? Why does any of this really matter? Well, scientific work usually falls into one of two buckets. You've got basic science, which is really driven by pure curiosity, just seeking knowledge for the sake of knowing more. And then you have applied science, which we often just call technology, that aims to use that knowledge to solve real-world problems. But here's the key. Applied science, all those incredible breakthroughs, almost always stands on the shoulders of the foundational knowledge built by basic science. And sometimes the greatest applications come from a complete and total accident. Back in 1928, a scientist named Alexander Fleming came back from vacation and found that a mold had contaminated one of his experiments and was actually killing the bacteria around it. Now, his observant, curious mind didn't just toss it in the trash. And that lucky accident, that one moment, led to the discovery of penicillin, which changed medicine forever. But this power, this knowledge, brings with it some profound ethical responsibilities. In 1951, cells were taken from a woman named Henrietta Lacks without her knowledge, without her consent. Those cells, the famous HeLa cells, became immortal. They've been one of the most important tools in modern medicine, helping develop the polio vaccine, cancer research, so much more. But their origin is rooted in an act that was deeply unethical. And this leaves us with a difficult, vital question that science alone just can't answer. In the noble quest for knowledge that can save lives, where do we draw the line?